Hello everyone, Storm 11 here. Today we'll be talking about two different systems. The first system will be coming in later tonight. A weak low pressure system will be developing along an Arctic front that could bring in winter weather conditions anywhere from parts of the Ozarks all the way up into through Kentucky into parts of Ohio, West Virginia, and eventually getting into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and maybe for parts of the Northeast as well. Our second system will also be developing along this Arctic front that will be setting up as it goes further south here from parts of Texas and it goes off the coast here of the Carolinas. Could bring in a mix of some snow and ice as well. It could be talking about potentially another winter storm and another ice storm with that as well. Before we get started, if you guys do like weather related content, you can always subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel as well. So we're going to get started with the watch warning map display. And the first system then again we'll be talking about will be what's going to be going on later tonight. Which in these purple colors here, you got one in northwestern Arkansas. You got a big area for most of Kentucky, into parts of southern Ohio, northwestern West Virginia, southern Indiana, and parts of southeastern Illinois. And there's another area around the Washington, D.C. area. That's where we can experience some accumulating snow, which can cause some travel issues out there as well. And we gotta pay attention to parts of Kentucky and maybe into portions of West Virginia. Those areas we may need to keep an eye on for that potential for a winter storm as well. That winter storm potential is still around with the system as well. Our second system to be to watch, which will be later this weekend. We'll begin in summer Texas, where we do have a winter storm watch, which is going to be for a mix of snow and ice down there. And that could go up into parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Georgia, and it pops back up again across parts of the Carolinas. And that winter storm watch will likely be expanding into parts of southeastern Virginia out there as well. And that is going to be for that snow and ice potential as well. But let's talk about tonight's system first. So we're going to start with the HER model, and really over the next couple hours we'll see some showers across parts of Kentucky, Tennessee. There will be some severe weather down to parts of the Texarkana region. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And you can see here comes your Arctic front right here. So here's your Arctic front kind of setting up. Probably be about right there. And the Arctic air is starting to come in behind the system. Now, one flaw that I've noticed already is that this ball here is not really showing much way of flurries back behind this. What it kind of tells me is that there's probably a little bit more moisture to work with back there, and probably at the same time, cold air might be a little bit stronger back there as well. So there might be a little bit more snow than what the HER is suggesting. There are more accurate balls out there that I'll show you guys in a little bit, but the HER does have a decent handle on this, at least as far out. And you can see here, some people will transition over to some periods of heavy snow, especially across parts of central Kentucky. They'll eventually expand into parts of southern Ohio and western West Virginia. You can see there, you got this large band of some heavy snow. Snowfall accumulations will be adding up at a pretty good rate. Now, the thing about this, with this setup, is that the snow ratio is going to change over time. Like, as soon as it starts to snow, temperatures are only going to be right around freezing. So your snow ratio is going to be like 1 inch rain can equal 7 inches of snow. As temperatures get colder, back behind it, your snow ratio is going to increase over time. So at first you probably experience wet snow, and then eventually over time the snow becomes a little bit more powderier as well as temperatures do get colder as well. However, at the same time, that moisture will be leaving as well. So even areas back here could see at times moderate snowfall as well on the back edge of this as well, depending on how much moisture is left back there, because there's going to be some pretty doggone cold air back there. You do notice here, this low is going to be very weak here. It's not going to last not much longer here, but it'll be strong enough to produce some issues. And you see here that snow does expand into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the Northeast as well. It's not going to be a major threat up there. Maybe a widespread 1 to 3 inches up there. Here's the snowfall amounts from the HER, and you do see there's some pretty good snowfall totals out there, and some of those numbers are in the winter storm range, which is at least 4 inches. That's when things kind of get a little bit technical, but I think it's going to be a general maybe 1 to 3 inch swath for most of us. But there are going to be areas that could see it maybe anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow, just a possibility as well. Here's the NAM model, and since then, the NAM model's been backing off by quite a bit. And if you compare it to the last storm, how the performance was, it wasn't great. So I kind of take this as a grain of salt. Plus, it's kind of a lonely one here. Or in other words, it means that this model here is pretty much the only one showing that, but its brother is showing a similar thing, which we'll take a look at in a moment. But it still has some decent amounts out there, especially when it gets up to West Virginia, at least 4 inches of snow out there. But then again, it's going to be a widespread swath of 1 to 3 inches. And you do see it picking back up again across parts of Northern Virginia, into parts of Maryland, Delaware, southeast of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, even up to parts of Massachusetts as well. Sometimes the type of setups like this can overperform a little bit, so that possibility is there as well. Here's a high-res NAM, and it's kind of worse than the NAM, but it still shows some decent totals there, especially across parts of Kentucky. Of course, the higher elevations in West Virginia, it's got a pretty good amount of snow. And also a general swath of 1 to 3 inches across parts of the Mid-Atlantic up into the southern part of the New England states as well. But let's check out the Harris Cadet, which this has been a pretty good model over the last couple events. And you can see here showing higher totals out there. It does show a little bit of a greater risk of winter storm territory, especially in this region right here across parts of central Kentucky, showing some areas picking up anywhere from 4 to maybe 5.5 inches of snow, which is quite a bit of snow out there. You do see here how those snowfall totals does taper off as you kind of get to the northeast. The reason why that there's going to be higher snowfall totals in central Kentucky, even the parts of northeastern Kentucky, is that these areas here will be experiencing a pretty good amount of snowfall for a longer period of time than everybody else. That's why we still have the potential for a winter storm, because of that factor in there as well. And then again, Harris Canadian's been a pretty good model to use. Certainly a pretty underrated model. And let's check out the rapid refresh. I know it's going to be laggy here because we have so many tabs here. This is its latest run here. It does seem like it's uptrending a little bit for some of its higher snowfall totals. It doesn't go through the entire event, but you do see here it's got a pretty good swath of 4 to 6 inches of snow. So it seems like things are starting to uptrend a little bit, but the rapid refresh has been kind of jumpy with it as well. That's something else to note as well. And this is the GFS. This has been a very consistent model over the last several runs. It's been pretty consistent. And you can see here it's got quite a bit of snow out there. And you can see here how it picks back up again in the parts in the mid-Atlantic as well. Then again, I think across parts of Kentucky, West Virginia, I think the highest amounts could be anywhere from 3 to 5 inches. There might be some isolated higher totals out there. And then for the mid-Atlantic, I think this could be a general 1 to 3 out there as well. And there might be an area too that may get a little over 3 inches out there as well. And those would be the overperformers out there. Okay, this is the SREF. This is kind of like an ensemble of the majority in the weather models of what we got. And this is what it suggests. This is a 12-hour mean, and you can see here across parts of Kentucky into West Virginia, pretty good amount of snow out there, 3 to 4 inches in 12 hours. You can see here we cut a 2 on there, which someone did post this on Twitter of the actual amounts from the SREF. Even it's got a pretty good swath of 3 to 6 inches of snow out there as well. So that winter storm territory certainly is still out there as well. And you got pretty good amounts as you get into parts of the Mid-Atlantic and parts of the East Coast as well. This is my snowfall forecast, and I usually do this for my own state. So anybody watching for Kentucky, hey, this is my thoughts right now. So then again, 3 to 5 inches. This kind of goes from close to the Interstate 65 corridor and it goes up into northeastern Kentucky. I think that's where we could experience 3 to 5 inches of snow. I might make changes to later today, so stay tuned for that. Most of the state will experience 1 to 3 inches, but for parts of northern Kentucky and southwestern Kentucky, it could be anywhere from a coating to 1 inch. And you can follow me on Twitter, which will be in the link description down below. That's usually where I post those maps on there as well. If you live in Kentucky, hey, I post some snowfall forecast maps on there most of the time. There's another threat with this flash freeze. So, really beginning this afternoon here, temperatures are going to be in the kind of the low to mid 40s out there. But look what happens as this Arctic front just pushes through. As soon as you get into the morning hours, you go into the upper teens. Now, I think some of these temperatures may be a little bit too warm. I think we're going to see some slightly colder temperatures. I think temperatures are going to be a little bit deeper in the teens Thursday morning, but things get worse when you get to Friday morning, though. Temperatures are deeper in the teens, and there'll be a chance for single digits out there as well, especially with that snow cover out there as well. So really anything that's wet on the trees, the roads, especially on treated roads, is going to ice up. Because by Thursday morning, most of us are going to be in the low 20s to upper teens. So that's a flash freeze for you. So Thursday morning, travel is going to be pretty treacherous, especially on the county roads as well. So certainly have to be careful out there as well if you're going to be driving Thursday morning, especially in parts of the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and even parts of the Northeast as well. Okay, so that's the winter side system out of the way. Let's talk about the severe weather side of things on the system. This is for today. We got slack roads for severe weather for southeastern Texas into central and northern Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas, and parts of western Mississippi as well. They recently upgraded the tornado probability to a 5% chance in southeastern Texas and southwestern Louisiana. Damage winds will be the main threat. There could be some hail out there as well with some of those storms as well. We'll use a HERB for this storm, for this severe weather setup today. You can see here, there's some pretty good storms out there from southeastern Texas up into southeastern Arkansas. And this is about 6 hours away, so this is kind of in towards the evening hours. Some of these may have a chance to become supercells. There's going to be a decent amount of wind shear out there to work with, but there's definitely going to be plenty of instability as well. And eventually, when you get to the overnight hours, they'll kind of cluster up, and that's when you kind of get that damage wind threat with some of these storms as well. If we check out the instability out there, you can see where those storms are located. There's plenty of instability out there to work with, so we definitely won't have a shortage of instability out there. At least 1,000 joules per kilogram will be variable for severe weather. This is your significant tornado parameters, and you can see here the numbers are elevated, so you do have that tornado threat, especially the parts of eastern Texas and southwestern Louisiana is currently at the greatest risk. And if those storms do stay discrete, those could become supercells as well. And you do have that potential for some hail in those storms as well before they kind of cluster up. This is your updraft helicity swaths, and you can see here with some of these green colors, that's where we show some of the stronger storms and has a chance to rotate. Higher the numbers, stronger the rotating storms could be. So, or in other words, let me rephrase that. So higher the numbers, stronger the rotation could be with some of those storms as well. And these are not very high numbers. This is not going to be a significant outbreak or anything. But then again, threats could be there for damage winds. There could be some isolated tornadoes, and there will be some hail out there as well, especially with that cold air aloft going on up there. As will certainly help as well. So that's the severe weather side of things out of the way. Let's talk about our next system, and this is going to be another pain in the butt forecast. Probably nearly as painful as the last storm. So models have been a little bit all over the place. There's not been much of any consistency, which is the bad thing when it comes to forecasting, is that the models don't have good consistency. And this is by Friday evening. And the reason why that I have set up here is to show you guys what's going to be going on in energy and what's kind of the outcome. And I want to kind of show you guys this first for a little bit. And you can see here across parts of the Carolinas, there is going to be some icing issues as well. Plus, there's going to be a decent amount of sleet out there as well. There could be a couple inches of sleet out there. And I think the biggest problem with this storm is going to be the icing problems. We could have multiple rounds of some freezing rain in parts of the Carolinas. And I think the bulk of the snow is going to be more focused across parts of central North Carolina into southeastern Virginia as well. Even the parts of southern Maryland could see that as well. And this is one of the biggest things, and it's the energy. And phasing has to work correctly. If you want a big storm, the phasing needs to work a little bit correctly. And this has not been a great trend for some of the models, and it's this northern piece of energy. And what I've noticed here on some of the previous runs is that it's been trending a little bit weaker. And if that occurs, you're not going to see a big storm. That's just not going to happen. There's another piece of energy in Severn, Texas that will create some snow and ice problems in Severn, Texas, where we do have those winter storm watches in effect. And you can see here, eventually when those two interact, it does start to gain some strength out there as well, but it's not really a big storm as you saw on there as well. Now, one model that has been on the aggressive side is the Harris Canadian. And you can see here, comparing the NAM to the Harris Canadian, which the Harris Canadian's been doing a pretty good job recently. It's much stronger with the northern piece of energy, and even with the southern piece of energy as well. And what's the outcome of that? There's a little bit more snow to work with. Heavier snow bands, there's a little bit more ice, unfortunately, with that as well. So if that's the case, if we can trend towards a stronger northern piece of energy, we can get a bigger storm out of this. It's certainly possible. How about the European model? It's actually pretty similar to the Harris Canadian. Stronger with the northern piece of energy and the southern piece of energy. And the outcome of that, a little bit of a bigger storm system with it as well. Now, I think it's a little bit suppressed with that colder air. It doesn't show a whole lot of snow out there. It might be a little bit more snow than what it's suggesting, but either way, pretty decent storm out there. And here's the GFS. It's a little bit weaker. It's also slightly slower with it as well, which you kind of compare the two. It's slightly slower. Then you got both of these are set on 18Z on Friday. And you can definitely tell the difference in GFS is a little bit slower with the northern piece of energy. And the outcome of that, you do get a pretty decent hit of some snow and ice with it as well. So if it does trend a little bit slower with the northern piece of energy, the phasing could work a little bit better, and you could get a little bit more snow out of it as well. Any little changes with the southern piece of energy and the northern piece of energy can change up the forecast. Keep in mind that. It could certainly change up the forecast. Here's the Canadian model, which has been a little bit more aggressive, similar to the European model. Slightly weaker with the northern piece of energy, but you do see here of the outcome of that, a little bit more snow to work with as well. Certainly a very interesting system to watch here. Let me show you guys the probabilities from the weather prediction area. So this is a probability for at least 1 inch of snow, and they currently got northern North Carolina into southeastern Virginia, which I would agree with that. It includes places like Raleigh, Greensboro, and Norfolk, Virginia as well. I believe these guys here have a pretty good chance of seeing a pretty good snow out of this, in my opinion. And as you kind of go later in the day here, some of those percentages do increase. Probability for at least 2 inches. Still pretty good probabilities out there. How about at least 4 inches? Or in other words, winter storm potential. So I got a pretty good probability in southeastern Virginia. If there's going to be a lot of snow somewhere, I would probably pay attention to southeastern Virginia, and maybe even to parts of northern North Carolina. This is where areas could experience that snowfall for a little bit longer period of time as well. So that's an area I would focus on for the potential for slightly higher amounts. Let's go to the bad side of the system, and that's ice. So starting on 18Z on Friday, your freezing rain is already beginning. And you can see here in the parts of the Carolinas here, you got a pretty good chance, 80 to 90% chance. Even areas in the blue colors even has a pretty good chance. That's at least 1/100 of an inch. At least a 10th of an inch of ice, there's still that chance out there. As you kind of go deeper into the night, the chances do increase throughout the night. If you check out probabilities for at least a 1/4 of an inch of ice, which is, or in other words, an ice storm, there's also good percentages out there as well. So the storm system does have the potential to bring in an ice storm as well. So that's another thing to watch for the Carolinas, is that ice storm potential as well. So basically, this storm system has two different threats, which are storm threat across parts of southeastern Virginia, parts of central and northern North Carolina, even up into parts of southern Maryland, maybe far southern Delaware, and an ice storm threat for parts of the eastern Carolinas as well, close to the coast line as well. So this is certainly a very interesting system to watch here. We should have a better idea on the system here, hopefully by tomorrow. But anyways, guys, that's all for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit the like button. If you're new at my channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put in the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.